What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, back from the dead, is Robert DeFelice.
I'm back from the dead, but you know what? It's not back from the dead, and that is the stupidity of WWE creative.
So, should we announce what we're doing ahead of time, or should we only announce maybe 4 parts of it?
No,
and then wait until, halfway through this, and then start springing stuff up on there?
So, here's the thing. If you've listened to the preview show, you should know what you're getting. And then midway through the podcast, maybe we'll spring on some major important key details.
Yeah, this is... If you don't know by the titles and all the other things that are happening here, this is the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show of Hell in a Cell 2019. The event just went down. We have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots to talk about here. Some positive, lots of negative things. And if you are wanting to join in on the discussion and continue with your thoughts and on your thoughts on our stuff and anything else like that, drop a comment below on YouTube. And while you're over there, ring that little bell for the notifications, hit the like button on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And that includes the people that are listening to the iTunes feed and the other audio-only platforms. Go to YouTube and drop a comment there. That's where we'll be able to actually see the comments and laugh at your suggestions of different things that we should do as a means to get over an event like this and a week like this that is still not fucking ending because I have to apparently watch Chronicle and I have to... it just never ends.
I don't think this will be fully over, and we won't be fully adjusted until December.
I know at the very least there's going to be a time at the end of this weekend where I'm going to have to take at least a day off, because to put this into perspective, it's been a hell of a week inside the wrestling spectrum and outside of it as well. And I'm not going to get into the outside of it type of stuff, but I will say this is a good indication. Everybody should know by now, if they've listened to the podcast long enough, how little I sleep and how stressed I am on a regular basis and all the kind of, those kind of things that kind of cycle in together. Well, at one point in this week, I fell asleep at my kitchen table. And at another point in the week, I forgot how doors work. I legitimately could not open my back door. And I struggled with it for about 3 solid minutes, thinking that the door was broken. And I had to get somebody else to open the door for me. And they opened it with no problem whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with it. And I couldn't even explain what I thought was wrong with it because I couldn't find the words to it. That is how tired I have been this week. Doors. A fucking doorknob. And it's not even like one of those ones with the latches on it that would be confusing. I couldn't turn left and right and figure it out.
You poor thing.
It's like, I feel like Grimes.
The Fred Grimes.
Just, And WWE just keeps going. We didn't talk about everything that happened in the whole premiere week, but if you've been following some of the premiere week things, you should know that I have not been the biggest fan of a lot of these things. I find a lot of what happened to be pretty good, and probably even more of it to just be, oh god damn it, why? And I tweeted something else about this at some point. I forget what it was, but I think it was after SmackDown maybe, where I said, oh, the theme of the week is, hey, this show's starting out really good. And then after the first segment or so, you go, oh, god damn it, no. And then it turns to crap, and then you go, oh, what the hell? Maybe the next show will be better. And then the next show happens and it does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it has been like that for Raw, NXT, not NXT UK, because NXT UK doesn't really even matter. SmackDown, the complete absence of 205 Live, and now for Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I think the overall arching theme for me with Premiere Week, without getting too much into it, is they seemed really focused on fuck the diehards. They're gonna be here. We should try to act as if we're gaining fans who have never seen the product before. And it led to some weird shit.
And some of that stuff, I can completely understand why they would do it. And some of the stuff, I really legitimately have to think, somebody signed off on that? Like, somebody thought that was... Somebody pitched that and thought it was a good idea, and then other people said, oh, I agree, and then they went ahead and did it. Like, and this is... Some stuff is real serious stuff, and some stuff is, like, stupid minor crap. Like, I mean, one of the criticisms that I had earlier this week, and yeah, we're talking about this stuff before we get into Hell in a Cell because we're just setting the mood for this kind of thing. One of the things being, I, for instance, thought that it was annoying that throughout the whole episode of NXT, which had some really good matches on it, that ultimately nothing really happened except for, hey, Finn Balor is back, and hey, Tommaso Ciampa's back. So if somebody were to ask me what happened on that night, I would have been like, a couple of good matches, check them out if you get the time. Oh yeah, Balor and Ciampa are back.
But you know what? I don't mind that because of all the things, that seemed to be the most brand consistent.
But it's also the type of thing that when you are going head-to-head against the debut of this other program, you should bring all guns forward, and you should have people talking and wanting to switch the channel. And I don't feel like they had anything that made them do that.
And I quote their congratulatory statement to All Elite Wrestling. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon.
Well, if you want to call them the tortoise and AEW the hare, the AEW was not perfect at all, but I had more people talking about some positives on that one than the NXT side of things. And after the way that Raw went down, and after some things on SmackDown,
and after tonight,
it's like, okay, so it isn't just one creative team that had some glitches. It's a fundamental issue with some things.
Let's skip a little bit to the end here. The show went off the air with thunderous AEW chants.
Mm-hmm. And that's not the first show this week to have done that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard to use your fucking brain, right? And just fuck's sake, this week of all weeks, people want to see you fail, and you spoon-fed them your failure. What the fuck happened?
If wrestling fans are supposed to be this dumb lot that is so forgetful that you need to remind them of things left and right a million times, because if you don't spell it out, they're such idiots, they won't remember what happened and whatever. And you need to do things like waste time on a rushed SmackDown to promote one of the only 3 matches at that point that had been announced, which was the Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins thing, because, nobody knows that that's going to be a thing going forward. Let's just do the same segment that we've been doing every single Monday Night Raw. If they're that stupid and you think that you're writing a product for such complete idiots, it should be easy to be able to tell what they like. And I'm pretty sure that most people that are smart enough to be in the wrestling business and get to a higher up kind of position, they are smart enough to understand that that's not going to go over well. This might go over well. Wow, we didn't see this one coming, and we were shocked about the response to this person, but we thought it might go this other way. And some things you can really kind of just guess ahead of time. They even knew, for instance, that Stone Cold Steve Austin would get cheered over Bret Hart. And that was a big deal back in the day. And you book certain things based off of wanting people happy.
Oh, shit.
There used to be a philosophy of you send them home happy.
Oh my god. I'm going through Twitter. Spoiler alert, I'm still working for Fightful, guys. I'm running up the Fight Size post Hell in a Cell report. They are throwing garbage at Seth Rollins as he's trying to leave the building.
Huh. Yeah, that's a great way to get over your babyface champion.
Holy shit. Dude, he has a team of security, and they are throwing shit at him. Oh my god.
And it's like, this is the thing that's really bothersome about a situation like this. We've talked about different events. Even, go back and listen to it. Crown Jewel's coming up. Go back and listen to the last Crown Jewel. That was one of the rare instances where that thing was not called the WWE Hell in a Cell 2019 pay-per-view post-show predictions, whatever, like all that kind of stuff. It was called something like WWE Crown Jewel Sucked. And that's a complete rant thing. For over a year now, it's been total chaos in WWE. And we've talked about different things where it's like, oh, they should learn a lesson from this. And they don't. It seems like they never seem to learn this lesson. And it's scary because it's like, crap, you didn't learn anything. The next thing is going to be just as stupid. And for everybody that goes, oh, well, then why do you bother tuning in? Yeah, people are going to stop tuning in. And that's why the ratings haven't been doing as good and all that. And we have to break down Hell in a Cell with this in mind of being like that this was supposed to be a pay-per-view that would have, in certain philosophies, either continued the momentum of a great week. That's the goal here would have been that every episode of TV this week would have been so awesome that everybody would have been like, oh, fuck it, AEW. Why would I want to watch that? And Monday Night Raw is so great, and SmackDown is so great, and NXT is so amazing, and even these other things like NXT UK and this 205 Live thing that completely doesn't exist anymore, it seems. And we got a pay-per-view coming up. Well, I can't miss out on that on Sunday night. That's how it should have gone. There were problems all along the way, and at the very least, Hell in a Cell should have been like, well, maybe the pay-per-view is going to make it all worthwhile. And we're going into it with 4 matches. It was the 3 matches that we have known for a while, and then they waited until, if I remember correctly, it was 11:31 on Friday night when they announced the blatantly obvious Charlotte versus Bayley match, which everybody had seen coming since September 15th. It took them nearly a month to announce a match that everybody knew was going to happen. And then they said, fuck it, we'll do a WWE Now, and we'll do that right before the pay-per-view starts, and we'll introduce the whole rest of the card, and this will get people to tune in. And just keep that in mind while you're listening to what happened on this night, because if you missed out on Hell in a Cell and you're listening to this podcast, first off, thank you for the dedication. And second, you'll be fully aware of whether or not you should have watched this show. And I bet you're leaning one way or another as it is, and I bet that you're right.
Well, I'm going to quick addendum to what I just said. So that was a gift that was a totally appropriate reaction. And if they were throwing shit at Seth, I would have believed it. But that was actually, it was a clip from a UFC fight of them throwing shit at a fighter. But I believed it because if they responded to that ending by throwing shit at Seth Rollins, I just would have believed it.
Oh, they threw verbal shit at the very least.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And here's another thing. When the stipulation is no DQ, this isn't...
Put a pin in this, because we'll talk about this later.
This isn't, like, it's throughout the whole week, and I've seen this a lot. Like, it goes back to the Raw thing of, like, Jerry Lawler yelling at Becky, you said you weren't gonna do this! You said you weren't gonna do this! What are they doing? They're not doing anything outside of the ordinary. I don't like the logic or lack thereof in pro wrestling. Mm-mm. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's completely fair.
Let's get into this pre-show because we had a match they announced for the pre-show, but it didn't deliver it on the pre-show. They waited for the main card. And then they gave us Natalya and Lacey Evans.
Yeah, so one of the only matches that they had just decided on a whim to just be like, oh, you only have 4 matches? Let's throw this on here. This will get people to tune in. It's Lacey Evans versus Natalya, a match that happened on this week's Monday Night Raw. And I did the stats for it. I checked on Cage Match. I'll give them a shout out because they're awesome. So, on Raw alone and 1 episode of Main Event for this year, this was going to be their 7th match. If you count house shows, it would have been the 31st time that they went back and forth and like opposing sides. Whether it was like a tag team match or it was a triple threat or if it was, I think that I counted the Royal Rumble in there. But even if that's the case, where it isn't, it would have been the 30th time. You would think that these two would figure out a better way to work together. And this match was boring. if the best thing to happen with this feud has been to laugh at how Lacey Evans can't put on the sharpshooter, that is not a good feud. And what happens when they go, well, the 31st time didn't work? Well, Natalya wins by submission. She knocks out Lacey Evans with a punch afterward just to kind of play back the thing that happened on Raw, which nobody really would have wanted to see on Raw, let alone would have been interested in seeing on the kickoff here. And keep in mind also, the kickoff is supposed to be the selling point for you to watch the rest of the card. So if you're like, what are they bringing to the table? Oh, they're bringing the match that we all saw on Monday Night Raw. Okay, fine. And the match, it goes lackluster. They decide later on, let's do it again. So on Monday Night Raw, we're going to get a last woman standing match. We're going to get the 32nd match between these two this year.
And what a weird stipulation for these two. Like, it's not like this is a bitter rivalry where, oh, I hate you and I want to see you fall and I'm going to beat you till you can't stand. No.
Natty's got more of a rivalry going on right now with Lacey Evans than she does with the woman who beat her up when she was talking about her dead dad.
Right.
What the fuck? I'm pretty sure if I were in Natty's case, I would be more upset with Sasha Banks. Now, I know she can't fight Sasha Banks because Sasha Banks is up against Becky Lynch. Yeah, well, that's what logic is, and that's in an illogical situation that WWE painted themselves into a corner about. Because it should have been Sasha against Natty, and then the Becky thing. So, Are you excited about this last woman standing match that's supposed to be a selling point for you to watch Monday Night Raw?
I am... Okay, going back to Premiere Week, how fucking abundantly clear is it that Raw is the B show right now?
Very much so.
Like, I don't know. I try not to come on here and be too sour about things, but how is it that in 1 week you completely crapped on the perception of Raw?
And for anybody that's wondering, too, if the whole thing's going to be complaining, I have some very big positives to say about
Oh,
Hell in a Cell, too.
Wait till we get to the fucking opening match, which was a masterpiece.
It's not going to be just run down everything, but I'm going to complain because this is what we do on Smark at Moment. We're honest.
We're unfiltered. Let me tell you, listen, I work for many different sites, and I'm flat out told many times when I write articles, no, this is too opinionated. You need to change this. Oh, because I said,
if I could write everything I want on all these things, yeah, you'd see.
And that's not even like me bitching. I'm just saying, well, blank is a great talent. Well, now it sounds like you're endorsing them. Okay, listen, there was so much about this that was wrong, but there was also so much about this that was good. But in order to appreciate the bright spots, we gotta dig through the shit, and there's a lot to dig through.
Mm-hmm. We had some other crap on the kickoff. It doesn't really matter, but the only other kind of thing for me to point out is their idea of building another match, which was Ali goes, yeah, I keep losing, and Randy Orton goes, yup. That's essentially what it is.
It was that black and white.
It was. It might as well have been, for fuck's sake.
Hey, the draft is coming. I had a topsy-turvy 2019. And Randy Orton was like, hey, remember when you were going to be in the Elimination Chamber and I injured you? Ha ha. And that's what he said. Well, then I'm going to fight you tonight. And they booked a match featuring 14-time world champion Randy Orton on the kickoff show. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's their rush at the last minute. Let's do this. And then that'll be like spontaneous and isn't that interesting. And we'll talk about the match itself, but I wrote this down on the live coverage on smartcommement.com. It says, Ali is interviewed by Sarah Schreiber about how he keeps losing. Randy Orton interrupts and Ali challenges him to a match tonight. The writing team gets paid, remember. # working hard. Because it's like, what do we do for this card? Fucking Orton against Ali. Okay, well, how do we get to that? Ali challenges him. All right, good. We'll sit back and hang out in catering. Come on. You couldn't have that. You couldn't have done something on SmackDown this week. SmackDown couldn't have had the fucking 8-man tag where it couldn't have had Orton and Ali, where Ali pins Orton, and then that leads to Orton challenging him to a match at this card. You couldn't have done that, or you couldn't have had something on social media where they started a thing and then they talk about it as being like...
Oh, he was too busy calling out The Rock on social media.
posing with a picture of a standee of John Cena and being like, basically doing the equivalent of when you've got like a statue and you pretend to like grab its ass or something like that. Like, which Randy Orton's fucking great with all that other kind of stuff. I think that's hilarious when he does that stuff. But it's like you have social media. This is the thing. I have to go into this rant because I've done it before, but I have to do it again. There is no excuse for them to have been waiting an hour before the event to announce over half of the card. They have hundreds of employees that have access 24/7 to Twitter and YouTube and 10 hours of programming per week just for this week alone that they could have announced more matches, let alone the past bunch of weeks. There is no excuse for them to have not had matches. Especially when you say, well, maybe they were keeping a big surprise, and maybe they didn't want people to know because they wanted to build that little bit of mystery. And then their idea of delivering with that is stuff like the Lacey Evans match, where if you're going to build a mystery up, and they should know this because the company's been in business for decades at this point, decades, not just even a year, decades. When you build up a mystery, people start filling in the blank, and they start building up this idea of some special things. I had seen people on social media this past couple of days pitching these wild ideas of what surprise matches they might be building up to. Even the idea of later on where it's the idea of the Viking Raiders and an unknown mystery partner against the OC. People are like, oh my God, CM Punk is showing up. That's what John Morrison's going to pop up. All this other kind of stuff. WWE has to be smart enough to understand that people do that. And when people do that, and you give them the ability to get their minds built up, and you don't deliver with that, then they go, oh, that's it? That's fucking stupid. So I like Randy Orton, and I like Ali. And if they would have done something, anything at all, leading up to this, other than what they did with this real quick, stupid backstage kickoff interview bullshit, then I probably would have talked about this on the pre-show with Callum and the predictions with Callum, and I would have been like, well, the match will be pretty good and whatever, but it doesn't have the biggest build and so on. But I would have been talking about how the match would have been good. Like, it's not that hard. Again, the phrase that I have to say multiple times a day for the past couple of years. It's not that fucking hard. Really quickly, though, I do want to mention this one thing that I thought was hilarious. This is one of my biggest highlights of the night. Somebody in the crowd had a sign that had a ghost on it, and it said boo, and then the next line, bees.
Yeah.
And it had a little bee. So, they got a crowd sign in there that said boobies, which is just fucking funny. So,
that's fantastic.
At this point of the night, I'm tired already. I'm getting frustrated at the Lacey Evans thing and all that. And then I see the boobies sign, and I'm like, like that's... it's a highlight. But thankfully, we get into the first match of the night. It's the Hell in a Cell match for the Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch going in there as champion, defending against Sasha Banks. Fucking amazing match.
Best female match I've seen all year.
Very easily. I have this on my list of best matches of the year.
Top 5 match of the year.
This was fantastic.
Maybe number 2 or 1 WWE match of the year.
Yeah, all the other matches that I have on my list for potential match of the year are all NXT. This is the only one from the WWE side, like the main roster. This was just awesome.
This was everything I've been waiting for these two girls to do, and more. And fucking, I love when they deliver, however, and this became very apparent, you don't blow your load so early in the night. And this show fucking kicked off with untouchable matches. The first 2 matches, we'll talk about the next one in a second, but this match alone was almost unfollowable.
Easily the first 2 matches.
This should have fucking main evented the show.
Especially when it comes to like just even like the Hell in a Cell spots and stuff. They were innovative. They had, I think the phrase that I had used in my highlights and low points for Bleach Report was each strike felt like it had enthusiasm behind it and it was meant to end the match instead of it just being like going through the motions and everything. they were beating the hell out of each other. They were doing things that I was not expecting them to do. They had several spots where I thought that was going to be the end of it, and it ended up continuing at that point. Sasha looks great. Becky looks great. I'm surprised at the end because I thought that, hey, we're going to do more draft talk a little bit later on, but I've been thinking for the longest time now, for the past couple of weeks, that Becky's dropping the title and Seth is dropping the title. Becky's going over to SmackDown. They're giving it to Sasha. They're doing the Flair thing. I broke that whole thing down. I've written up a couple articles about it and stuff. So I was just shocked as all hell about that, which I don't like or I dislike. It kind of depends on what's going to happen with the draft. And then in hindsight, I'll be able to judge it. But I like Becky and I like Sasha. So it's like, okay, well, either way, it's a win. And you got me with a surprise, so that's kind of fun. And the match, from literally the very beginning of the match, was just fun and so good. And it was like, at this point of the night, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I wrote out all this stuff about this being a low point. I have to switch this to a highlight. This is really good. This is a highlight of the year. Maybe Hell in a Cell is going to work out.
To be fair, they came very close.
Oh, I think that at the very least, if this is our only takeaway from this night on the positives, it doesn't make up for everything, and it doesn't make WWE be like, oh, okay, well, they know what they're doing and everything like that. But at the very least, you got to give credit to Becky and Sasha. They did a hell of a job.
Well, this match, go watch this match, guys. This match was as good a Hell in a Cell match from anybody on the main roster as you will see in modern times. Mm-hmm. You'll never see again Triple H and Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. You know, you'll never see those guys. And that kind of Hell in a Cell match where it's like, you got barbed wire chairs, you got all that shit. But this is as close as you can get. And it was fucking great. And Sasha Banks, I stand by it, is the best belt-to-belt female performer in WWE.
I'd take the argument for that about possibly Flair, possibly Becky, possibly some other people in NXT and that kind of thing. But at the very least, Sasha's in the discussion. And her performance here helps prove that even more, because this was just awesome. And I've nothing but positives to say about it, little spots and big spots, whether it's something like the idea of Becky starting it off by grabbing the chain for the door and hitting Sasha with that was like, all right, cool. Or if it's something a little bit more intricate, like them setting up the kendo sticks in the chair and sitting Sasha down on that was fun. I haven't seen that before. You know, positive things, innovative things, spots that look like they hurt, action back and forth, good pacing. It's just a fucking great match. Definitely on my list of one of the best of the year.
And at the end of the match, Sasha was crying on the ramp, and I think that we're going to talk about that more a little bit later on in the night. And maybe we're not quite done with Sasha Banks's meltdown, and maybe that's going to be in the forefront of her character.
Maybe. We'll have to see. And the fact that I don't know where they're going with this is all that more intriguing. Then they follow it up, and it's like, okay, well, can't do better than that match. And they didn't do better than that match, but they came pretty damn close.
They came very close. Listen, I just said it. They blew their load with the first two matches because this tag team match was phenomenal.
And that was a new addition to the card as well, to a certain extent. Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus Erick, Rowan, and Luke Harper was supposed to be just a regular tag team match, leading all the way up until this point, until they decided to just say, hey, it's a tornado tag team match. Which, let's be honest, it's just another word for no disqualification. It's just a street fight, all that stuff.
And you know what? I'm not going to say that, because sometimes, as you'll see, we'll talk about this later on as well, they want to have rules in no DQ matches.
Yeah, that's
not this one. And this one was very good.
Yeah, this was great. They did their job as far as making sure that Rowan and Harper looked like they were equals to Bryan and Reigns instead of just two people that are there to lose. Bryan's got some good spots. Reigns had some good spots. Rowan and Harper look like they're beasts.
Is there a better babyface than Daniel Bryan?
hasn't been. I can't think of another one other than like a Johnny Gargano type, which is just kind of like NXT's Daniel Bryan. But one of my favorite parts of this, I forgot that I wrote this down. This is so stupid that I wrote this down too. I have written down, can we get an injury status report on that pencil that that Rowan broke? I did like that. I thought that was funny. If I'm just being like, fuck you, number 2.
Just good shit, man. Like, so much fun. Like, this was like, oh man, maybe this pay-per-view is gonna be badass.
Right? Because that, like, you get past the Lacey Evans thing, which was crap, and not the worst match in the world. I'm not saying it's like Evans and Natalya were wrestling the way that like Jenna Maraska did in TNA or something like that. There's a fucking poll. I don't know where that came out of. But you know, not a good match by any means. And then they do these 2 matches, and I'm like, holy shit, Hell in a Cell is gonna be fucking awesome. This is like gonna be one of those rare instances where I go into it with low expectations or 0 expectations, and ends up blowing me out of the fucking water.
And then,
well, then we get at the very end of this, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns win. They win by pinfall. Reigns goes for a handshake. Daniel Bryan rebukes, and he goes, "Nah, we're gonna hug it out," which I thought that was fun. So anybody who's questioning the idea of whether or not Reigns and Bryan are on the same page and Bryan's babyface, 100% babyface at this point, which is the right way to go, I think.
Which one of the 2 do you think goes to Raw?
I think, well, I thought for the longest time that it was going to be Reigns, but, you know, now I'm starting to think that maybe there's almost no changes that are going to be happening with this draft, and maybe both of them stay on SmackDown.
No, I think one of them's going to Raw, and maybe Daniel Bryan to add some levity after all the bullshit.
That might be the case. I'm leaning more towards the idea that Brandon. Why is it going to be Brandon? That Daniel Bryan will move to Raw than Roman Reigns would at this point. Which also scares me, because then it makes me go, God damn it, we're getting fucking Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar, aren't we?
There's no way. I could be dead wrong, but I don't think so.
I think it's happening. We'll see at the draft. The draft is going to change so many different things. It's even going to change what Hell in a Cell is going to be looked at too. But then we get Ali versus Randy Orton, and the match itself,
the coolest RKO counter, I guess you can call it, that I've ever seen.
Well, that's basically what this match equates to. It's I was going to say boils down to what. Fuck it, I'll just say it. Boils down to. Ali and Orton had a pretty decent enough match. It's completely not memorable except for the very end of it, which was Ali escaping the RKO, which was great, and then Randy Orton hitting an RKO anyway, because he's
fucking Randy Orton.
So it's like, it was a good enough match, but it doesn't have a whole lot of momentum behind it and a whole lot of juice, because it just kind of happened at this random kickoff thing and stuff. So I kind of couldn't get into it up until that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if I have no complaints about it, it still was like, well, I like to use food as an equivalent for a lot of different comparisons, because it's one of those things that everybody eats, you know? If you don't, I don't know how the fuck you're surviving. But like, how often do you eat a meal that is really good, that makes you go, wow, I'm so glad that I ate that. I'm like astounded. I can't wait to get that again, and different things. Versus how often do you eat a meal where you're like, I just gotta eat. It's fucking 8:00 or whatever it is.
Unfortunately, way too much of the latter.
And Ali versus Orton kind of felt like the latter. It was like, well, like, what did I eat today? I very quickly scarfed down a frozen Stouffer's vegetable lasagna thing. Not all that great. But hey, I popped it in the oven and I had an hour and it took an hour and whatever, and I just did that. So I'm already hungry, and I ate that at 8:00, and it's 11:30 right now. So keep that in mind. That's my equivalent. Is this was kind of a lackluster meal with a really good last bite.
Yeah, all I've had is sandwiches today. I could go for a pretty hearty meal. Okay, get some pizza.
Like a Jeff Hardy meal or a Matt Hardy meal?
Not a Jeff Hardy meal after this weekend. I think I'll go with that. I think the Matt Hardy meal might be a little more organic.
Now
It
I'm
looks
imagining like the Happy Meal, but like the Matt Hardy meal, like the little M, and or the Golden Arches. It's not an M, but like
uh,
what would you get in a Matt Hardy meal?
you definitely get a Vanguard one. Think you
Oh, that's
might.
worth it at that point. You get a little drone.
You might even get a dilapidated boat.
Let's see here. We had another one of these impromptu type of matches. The women's tag team championship was on the line. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross randomly facing the Kabuki Warriors, which I really liked on the kickoff that Alexa Bliss made a point to say, what the hell did they do to deserve this match? And it was like, yeah, bingo. And Nikki Cross brings up, well, they beat Fire and Desire and we wrestled them a month ago or whatever. And it was like, okay, you're pointing it out. How would this match doesn't need to happen. And I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are Asuka and Kairi Sane heels now? Because, of course, I got tagged in like 100 different messages of people being like, oh my god, they're heels. And it's like, you know what? They really did seem like they were kind of heels here. They were kind of acting like jerks. And they won the match and won the titles with Mist.
Asuka, very much so. I don't know about Kairi. Kairi's an innocent little puppy. Like...
Kairi's the type of puppy that rips up a bunch of things and you're like, god damn it, you're really cute, but knock it off. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, because Kairi didn't do anything. She just... Asuka with the Kabuki-ish finish with the poison mist, and I love it. And yeah, I'm sure somebody is gonna say it's so stereotypical, but fuck, at least it's something. Just a week ago, they were chasing Carmella. Like, I'd rather have them as the tag champions. Does this mean they can go to NXT?
Technically speaking, they did say before that these titles are cross-branded from every single brand, including NXT and NXT UK, and even technically 205 Live, but there's no women on 205 Live, so... Hey, there's no 205 Live, so...
I think that's why they did it.
I think that they're doing it because they're splitting up Alexa and Nikki in the draft.
I'm okay with that.
I think Alexa's going to SmackDown and Nikki's staying on Raw. And... I don't know about Asuka and Kairi Sane. I don't know if that's going to be like that they stay on Raw because there's more time for the women's titles, or if they go to Raw not to stay on the Raw, or if they stay on SmackDown and they just figure out something for that. But I'm leaning more towards the idea that they go over to Raw and maybe even carry on this feud through some kind of cross-branded thing or something like that. But part of me thinks that these tag titles isn't even going to continue. Because how do you do a cross-branded thing if you really do separate the brands? That matters for the 24/7 title, too.
You can't kill the title. You can't kill the title.
They can kill the title without killing it. They can make it to where it never does anything at all.
Yeah, but the way the world functions right now, if you blatantly disregard a women's championship like that, or any championship for that matter, but specifically this championship that was like fought for and cried over and all that. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, fuck it.
It wouldn't shock me at all if they do literally nothing with it and they think that they can get away with just like, well, every 2 or 3 months or so, they'll have some kind of match on a pay-per-view.
So like the Iconics reign, but all the time?
Yep.
Fair enough.
The match itself, not bad, not great. It just wasn't a match. Like, I had nothing really to say about that. And I'm really curious about where they take this in the future. And a week and a half from now, when the draft is done and we know where they're going, we might look at this and say that it's the best thing that happened to these titles. Or we might look at that and go, well, what the fuck? What was the point? You know?
Yeah. I would throw it under the NXT banner. But I'd throw everything under the NXT banner.
You know what I would throw under the NXT banner?
What's that?
Something to happen on the show other than the AEW opposite of that. I'm salty about it.
Yeah. What came after this?
This was the Viking Raiders and their mystery opponent, mystery tag team member
Harper.
Against the OC. And who's their mystery tag team partner?
At least it wasn't Cedric Alexander.
If it would have been Cedric, oh god. I mean, I fucking like Cedric. That's the thing. And keep in mind as well, I like the Viking Raiders a lot. They are in one of my other matches that's in the best match discussion. And the OC, Lots of potential. Big fan of AJ Styles. Think that the Good Brothers should have been doing a hell of a lot more than they do. And the mystery partner is Braun Strowman. Obviously, one of my favorite guys. I love the guy always talking about how they need to give him the belt and all that other kind of stuff. So I like all 6 guys. And I forget the numbers. I had calculated this ahead of time, too. It was something like 16 matches that the Viking Raiders have had with the OC over the past 2 months or something like that. Or however what the numbers were. They've been fighting the OC over and over and over again. Sometimes in 6-man tags, sometimes in regular tag team matches. I fucking get it by now. Ivar does the goddamn cartwheel and we do the rest of the shit and then it ends in a DQ. It happens all the time and stuff. So what happens here? Oh, Ivar does the fucking cartwheel and whatever like this, and they do whatever they do, and then it ends in a goddamn DQ.
Why, and gotta talk about it, why do they make the referees look like cowards? The referees look like people who can't handle what they've signed up to do when they're taking any little outburst and going, DQ, DQ, that's it. You know?
You know my philosophy about DQs on pay-per-views. Where, like, let's say the average match number for a pay-per-view is around 10. Because I'm pretty sure that, like, the B pay-per-views are around 8. And then the bigger ones are around 11 to 12. Sometimes like 14, 17, whatever it is. But let's just say, regularly speaking, there's about 10 matches per card. And we've gotten at least 1, at this point, 2, sometimes 3 pay-per-views per month. I feel like if you're talking about the potential of 120 to 150 matches per year on pay-per-view, there should maybe be like 3 disqualifications. It's a pay-per-view. It should be the end of different feuds. It should be starting a new feud. It should be doing something other than saying, you've seen this before, how about you see it again? Ha, gotcha. You want to see it again tomorrow on Raw? Because how much you want to bet they do Braun Strowman and the Viking Raiders in a rematch, and then they try to advertise it, and you got Dio Madden, and you got Vic Joseph, and you got Jerry Lawler going, after they announce it, that they go, in a rematch from Hell in a Cell, the Viking Raiders and Braun Strowman are going to fight the OC. Oh my God, you can't wait to see this happening coming up next. Like that kind of thing.
I think whatever Braun Strowman does, it'll be with AJ Styles, and it'll have to do with Tyson Fury.
Well, they're going to do something with that, which I don't give a shit about Tyson Fury. I don't know who the hell he is.
He's the boss.
It at least makes sense to be like, well, you know, big looking guy, he's popular with a different type of thing. I'm not going to shit all over that, you know. But if they do this match again, I'm going to be like, well, God damn it, you couldn't have just done this something different on the pay-per-view? Like, we have an Intercontinental Champion that's not defending his belt. The United States Champion didn't defend his belt. The Raw and the SmackDown Tag Team Champions didn't defend their belts.
But what does it matter? Because, hey, we're giving you 2 Hell in a Cell matches. And to be clear, the matches that they did, the matches that they did announce, they delivered. You know, all of them. Even the main event up until the last 2 minutes.
We're gonna disagree about that.
All right, we'll get there. Because
short end of the stick. Short end of the stick. Short end of this discussion. To me, I think you got 2 great matches at the beginning and 2 shit matches at the end.
Yeah.
And it's filled with a bunch of just fill up some time type crap. And some of it's good, some of it whatever. But
as far as the 6-man tag, I think the one takeaway for me was aftermath. They're all brawling. AJ Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm. Strowman punches him, and AJ sells this thing like he is under anesthesia and is just rubber-legged and trying to celebrate, but he can't stand up. And AJ, to me, is the epitome of you can never stop improving, because AJ Styles 12 years ago was phenomenal. AJ Styles in 2019 is the total package and more. And no, I'm not talking Lacey.
Baby to it. So, really quickly, let me toss this out here. On the plug side of things.
If you would like to hear us talk about Lex Luger,
well, for that matter, yeah, you know what? If you want us to talk about Lex Luger and you want us to, I don't know, do some kind of watch along of the Lex Express type things or something like that or whatever, then hit up the Patreon. But the Patreon is something to keep the sanity going and to keep us motivated to keep doing this and stuff. And whether you toss $1 or $5 or $100 or whatever it is that you can spare for your spare change towards that, then that's all greatly appreciated. And you can motivate us to do certain things in particular that you would like. So if you want us to do something that we didn't do this time that we normally do, which is to go back and do a fan announce table of a Hell in a Cell match, if there's one that you really want us to do, then get to the pick your poison tier, and that's going to be something that you can request that particular Hell in a Cell. We didn't get a chance to do it because of all the other pay-per-view prediction type stuff that we had going on leading up to this, and that's kind of a shame because that's usually something I look forward to. And now this next coming week we have draft stuff, so it's just going to kind of go out there. But hey, you pay for it, you get it. That's how it works. So keep that in mind, everybody, if you want more talk about those kind of things. But let's go on to the backstage segment here. The Street Profits were there talking about how tomorrow night on Raw there's going to be a draft showcase, which I assume is just going to be a waste of like 15 minutes for them to be like, look at this person could go to this brand.
No, there's going to be finally saying, who the fuck is drafting these people on behalf of these brands? It's got to be, because you can't. What do you have?
You know what it's probably going to be? If it's called the draft showcase, it would not surprise me at all if it's like a 10-man tag team match. And it's like, every man wants to. Yep, it's or a gauntlet or something like that, or something where they eat up a lot of time. You know what? It might even be a battle royal. That's what it might be. They might have a battle royal where they say, well, if they want to prove themselves to be drafted to a particular show, and USA and Fox are going to end up doing that, which it seems that's the case. It seems like they're indicating that it's USA and Fox that are picking this. They're going to say, if you win this, you're going to show yourself as being like the top pick for the draft and whatever like that. And they'll have Heath Slater and EC3 and Eric Young and so on and so forth on the Monday Night Raw side of things. And some people in the wild card role from SmackDown. And they'll do that kind of a thing. Or they might not even go that far. And it might literally be just, like, backstage vignettes. I'm not looking forward to this, as you can tell.
Well, you know, I thought it would be nice and cool and maybe give us some insight, but Tony has already talked me out of the segment.
Yep. But they're talking about that. Who knows? It might be great.
Yeah.
And, suddenly Carmella comes by with R-Truth, and out of the blue, Tamina attacks him, and she pins Carmella and wins the 24/7 championship, the first title that Tamina has ever had in WWE.
Damn right.
And she bumps into Tyler Breeze, who is there for some reason, despite how he's in NXT, and he's kind of eyeing her up like he wants to get all up in her business, and she clocks him and runs away and whatever. Huh?
Tamina's back is the takeaway. Tyler Breeze, he might have been eyeing the title. He hasn't won a championship yet. I mean, he hasn't been there for 10 years like Tamina, but he hasn't won a title yet. So, who knows? Maybe Prince Pretty will be the NXT 24/7 champion.
That was so odd to me. The Tamina thing was already like, oh wow, that's interesting. I'm not like the biggest fan of it in the world, but it's kind of fun. But then the Tyler Breeze pops up, I'm just like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on here. Something to keep our eyes on, I guess.
Well, not for too long.
No, well, maybe. Who knows? Maybe that's going to be the draft showcase. Tyler Breeze.
So the draft showcase is just going to be a retrospective of all the budding romances and cuckolding angles in WWE currently.
Which will be what, like 4, I think, at this point?
Yeah.
You got Maria, you got Rusev, you got
the budding romance of Tyler Breeze and Tamina.
Tamina and Tyler Breeze. And there's another one that I'm forgetting.
Devo, they won't. They have Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
Yeah, there's another one. Then we get Chad Gable versus King Baron Corbin. We had that match, and then we had that rematch, and then we're having that rematch. And
is his name still Chad?
Well, not at the end of this, because they were really just harping on that Shorty Gable thing, which is stupid as hell. And good old Shorty G now is embracing it, and you can call me anything you want, because I'm Shorty Gable. And he beats Baron Corbin by pinfall. It was a fine match, but this whole segment was just stupid and not the type of thing that I think would have got anybody to actually tune in if they would have announced this ahead of time. And I highly doubt that when they did announce it, that anybody was like, oh, I can't miss that.
So
and keep in mind, I like both of these guys. I actually tweeted out on SmackDown that Baron Corbin is overlooked and underrated and all that, because I think that he's good. I think that Gable's good. And the match was fine. Just the writers didn't do anything to set this up. And this Shorty G thing is stupid.
Did Hamilton go into business for himself?
When he announced the Shorty G thing?
Yeah.
Or Shorty Gable? No, I think that he was told to do that.
I mean, I know he was told to do that. But, there was nothing storyline that said, hey, say Shorty Gable.
Oh, if you mean if it was
Corbin didn't
logical
say,
and all that.
And you better announce him as Shorty,
Yeah. No, they didn't do that, but you were just supposed to be like, oh, I guess he's that now. Which is that'll get him over. Shorty Gable. You remember that whole discussion that we've heard on Something to Wrestle With, where Pritchard says that Vince legitimately looks at people and tries to see if he can see them main eventing WrestleMania. Can you really imagine the WrestleMania main event being Shorty Gable?
Shorty Gable versus The Fiend. It's like a Chucky movie.
Shucky Ducky Gable Quack or something like that.
Shucky Ducky Shorty Quack.
We'll figure out some kind of.
Listen, we're hitting I've been lose the oxygen to my brain. It's been a long week.
I can't promise that I can figure out how to work a door, but I can figure out a better way to do this. And if I do, then it'll be up on the merchandise shops. I'll put up a t-shirt on TeePublic or Redbubble for Smark Out Moment, and you'll buy some Chucky Ducky Chad Quack kind of thing or something.
I've got a t-shirt idea for you, but we'll get there when we talk about the main event.
Okay. Well, then we get Tamina running out ringside. They're introducing all the announcers, it's Shazay Sardar. Huh. I thought it was Shez. And they get to running down all that list, and Tamina runs out, and we get a little bit of Funaki action here. She's using him as a shield. Carmella blasts her with a super kick, and R-Truth pins her. So now R-Truth is, I think that they had said this is his 20th title reign.
20 times R-Truth has become a father to that beautiful 48-14 European Television Championship. It's an amazing, beautiful thing. And I love it.
I am going to spoil the end of the year awards. I highly doubt that there is going to be anybody that I will pick that can be a better champion this year than R-Truth.
Yeah, R-Truth is fantastic.
Now, if you're holding me to the idea of I have to pick the particular title reign, then that's a different story. But yeah, he is. And Carmella, she deserves a lot of credit for this too, because it's a team act in a lot of different ways, and you need somebody to play off of. So I'm interested to see what they do tomorrow night. I think that we're going to get another title change, and I don't really know who it'll end up being. I mean, it could be something as simple as just another backstage person just happens to pump in R-Truth or whatever, or they could just be really kind of ridiculous with it, and Tyson Fury wins it for all we know.
Oh, he will. I don't know if he'll hold it, but he'll win it for sure.
Well, I mean, I would assume that if he didn't win it, if he won the title, he'd have to lose it the same night or something, but I'm working under the assumption he's not going to. I think that we're going to get somebody else, and maybe it's just going to be I don't know, Tamina wins it back or something. Who knows? But this was at least fun. It's kind of interesting. And that
Indeed.
took us into Bayley versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And you liked this match. I thought it was underwhelming.
I thought it was a good match. Maybe the best pay-per-view match Bayley's had in a while. That's not like the bar isn't high, but it's at least she got to wrestle and tell a story.
Well, we don't know what Sheamus is up to right now.
Well, we know that Cesaro is wrestling in pajamas. No, but I think Bayley got to tell a story, and it was great. And Charlotte's a 10-time champion because, of course, she is. And
how long do you think it's going to take before she beats Rick's 16? She's been on the roster for
15 months.
You think she's going to get 6 title reigns within just a little bit over a year?
Yeah. She's gotten, 2 this year? Maybe 3? No, 3.
She got
3. She beat Asuka, she beat Becky, and then she just beat Bayley.
Yeah, that's true. So this is her 3rd this year. Wow, okay. It might end up happening.
Well, there you go. So she can totally get 16 within the next 15 months.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I didn't really like this match all that much. I have no standout moments that I thought it was going to be memorable about. The most memorable thing of the whole thing was the idea that Bayley afterward was throwing a bitch fit. So I'm kind of curious where they go with that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It seems like they're going to play on the whole. Well, they were crying when they were told that they had to drop the title. Because she was saying, like, why does this always happen to me? You know, like, this is so unfair. And it's at least an interesting development to her character.
Do you think that they move in the draft? Because for some reason I got a weird feeling in my gut that Bayley's going to go to NXT.
I think wherever Bayley goes, Sasha goes, and vice versa. And if it's NXT, I'm with it.
Something about it. I don't know. If it ends up happening, don't attribute me as being some kind of prophet because I'm talking out of my ass, but I don't know. Something about it's making me think that. It's really strange. And we had a backstage thing. Gable's telling Caleb Braxton, basically, call me Shorty Gable now, and then he gets his ass kicked because, you know, that's the thing. Baron Corbin throws him out into the friggin' hallway, and I laughed.
I think we all laughed.
So before we get into the main event, another quick plug here. If you are interested in some things that are not wrestling related and you want to hear us talk about some other different stuff and you want us to do more material that's like on the geek culture side of things, fanboysanonymous.com is my site where I talk about movie reviews and TV show talk and movie reviews, TV stuff and movie reviews and TV stuff, and comic book stuff and all that. It's mostly the movie side of things, but every once in a while I'll talk about some video game thing or something like that. And one of the things that I did most recently was my review of Joker. Now, I didn't do a podcast on that one. It's a Making the Grade editorial. Or no, I did do a podcast, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. I listened to it.
Oh my God, this week. Yeah.
I was going to say, what do you, I listened to the podcast. You did a great podcast. And it was, that movie is very divisive.
If you want to hear my opinions about that, because it is a divisive movie, it is a podcast, but the thing I'm getting confused with was I also put up a Making the Grade review of Wonder Woman Bloodlines.
There you go.
That's what I did.
Is that animated?
Yeah. Apparently I did that last night. I don't remember.
I don't know.
But if you want to check that stuff out, go to fanboysanonymous.com. And if you want more of that kind of stuff, and pretty soon we're going to be doing one of those things because Guest 5 has requested another thing of fan tracks for Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So that's going to be coming up at some point. I'm not exactly sure when, but we'll get around to it as soon as we can. Then that's something to keep in mind as well. And if you donate to the Patreon and you want to pick your poison thing for that instead of just the Smark Out Moment side of things, and you want more of a discussion about the Joker movie, or you want something like a list of stuff on the website, or, you know, there's lots of different options.
You guys don't even know. I pitch a million ideas to Tony for fanboys,
And
Because
I want to do damn near every single one of them. I really want, like, for instance, everybody, and this is something that if you donated to the Patreon, I would figure out a way to try to do this as much as I could, but, like, Mount Rushmore of video game characters, or Mount Rushmore of superheroes, or a tournament of the best Batman villains. Like, there's so many friggin' things I want to do, and
the Gotham Gauntlet.
yeah, like, that would be so fun, and I would love to do that stuff. And if you want to see more of that stuff, hit up the Patreon, buy some merch on the TeePublic or the Redbubble for fanboys, keep that stuff going, and check that all out. Follow the social media accounts, subscribe to the YouTube channel, do all that kind of stuff. But before we get into the Bray Wyatt stuff, the fact that he's got the mask and all that stuff, it reminded me of the Joker, so that's why I'm bringing it out there. Because that was our main event. Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt in the Hell in a Cell for the Universal Championship. The match that was, for the most part, half of the reason why you would have probably watched this event, if not the main reason why. It's the thing that's actually selling, like, the poster and all that, and arguably the thing that people were the most excited about was to see what Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, this dark, mysterious, mythological type of character, could do inside of a structure called Hell in a Cell, Satan's structure. And what does he do in the match? He gets hit with a bunch of things.
Now, well, hold on.
That's what it was. This match
hold
was
on.
a couple minutes of action. He brings out a fucking hammer. Seth Rollins hits him with this, hits him with that, hits him with that, hits him with that, hits him with that, hits him with that. All the meanwhile, everybody's booing. That's what this match was. This match sucked balls.
I will defend portions of this match. So I saw this breaking down very clearly. You've seen Beyond the Mat, right? Where Vince McMahon's chewing on the ice and he goes, "We make movies." This is very much "we make movies" WWE. Like,
that movie sucked.
the red lighting, which was cool for the entrance and kind of cool for the match itself. Not so cool if you're in the arena. Lots of complaints there.
You'd think that they would have learned from Sin Cara.
You think they would have learned from last year where people were like, "Fuck this red cage, I can't see anything," so they just added red lights on top of it. But, you know, the match was alright. At first it was like, okay, the Fiend is going to run right through Seth Rollins. Seth is hitting him with everything, nothing is working. Finally, the story they tried to tell was Seth Rollins is snapped, and he's hitting him with like 40 stomps, and the Fiend just keeps getting up, and it's really cool because you're like, all right, he's the guy trying to kill a monster in a horror movie, and he's gonna come up short because the Fiend has to win this one, and I almost call him Doink because of the mallet, but the Fiend pulls out this fucking mallet that he uses to squash the rabbit in the funhouse sometimes. Seth Rollins used that against him. Seth Rollins hit him in the head with a chair. I mean, I'm sure it was safe as it can be, but Seth Rollins did do a chair shot to the head. So very interesting. Then he tried to drive a ladder into the chair, into his face. It was like, it became very, how much can I do to his face? And fucking Bray is out for like 5 minutes. And at this point, the crowd is going, boo! And you're like, alright, I can live with this, because the Fiend is gonna pop up spider style like Bray Wyatt, the character, has done for the last 7 years, and destroy him. And even though this would work better if fans were cheering the babyface, at least they'll get what they want. No. Seth Rollins pulls out a sledgehammer, because for the second month in a row, he's like possessed by the whatever of Triple H. And the referee, in a Hell in a Cell match, which has no rules because it's Tony, the referee says, "No! You're not gonna do this! Don't do this to him! You're gonna kill him! This isn't you! This isn't you!" And Seth gets a little teary-eyed, because again, we make movies, folks. And He hits him in the head with the sledgehammer anyway. Ding, ding, ding. It's a DQ.
Remember how I said earlier that I think that maybe you should do 3 at most DQs for an entire year's worth of pay-per-views? They did 2 on this particular night. One of them being a no disqualification match. Which last year they did a no disqualification Hell in a Cell match and had a disqualification. Everybody fucking complained about it. And they had an entire year to understand how stupid that was. And they did it anyway in a match that they did not have to book, because if they didn't want Seth Rollins to lose and they didn't want Bray Wyatt to lose, they shouldn't have been in a fucking Hell in a Cell, or they shouldn't have been in a fucking feud, because they didn't need to do it at all.
Exactly. And they
control this shit. This is scripted.
That right there. Let's stop and dive right into that. That is why I'm upset. I'm not upset because, I got worked. And the only reason I'm saying that, I'm not saying that you're saying that of me, but sometimes I think when people complain, it's an instinctive defense to go, you're mad because they didn't do, you're mad because you got worked. You're mad because they didn't do what you thought they were going to do. No, I'm mad because it's fucking scripted. And you don't need to do this. You don't watch a television show to be mad at the writing stuff. You want to be mad at the antagonist or the protagonist. You know, there's some leeway there because there's shades of gray, but you don't want to be mad at the decision of the writing staff.
I don't watch any TV show or any movie to be annoyed at what is going on my screen. I watch it to be entertained. And spoil alert when it comes to the Joker, not spoiling the movie, but spoiling my thoughts in the movie. I was like, hey, that movie looks good. I hope I enjoy it. And I went to go see the movie and I went, hey, that movie was good and I enjoyed it. That's a good movie. Like, that's what I want to do. Again, I'll use the food analogy. I don't want any fucking meal to suck. And
exactly,
you can take something that I like Seth Rollins. I think that Bray Wyatt is one of the most overrated people that they've had for the longest time, because every time they build this up, it always ends up falling short. And at this point, now I'm feeling like that's one of the things that's the case, because they can't handle it.
And but it's exactly this, like, nothing that, in my opinion, ever, but especially right this moment, you can't fault the man behind the mask.
Unless it was his idea, which I highly doubt that was the case.
You really think, because we're not even done with the main event yet, but you really think that could have been anybody's idea when you could see that it was falling on its face before it happened? They were booing the fact that the Fiend wasn't getting any offense in for the last 5 to 7 minutes. They wanted to see the Fiend win the goddamn belt. And for that matter, forgive me, scatterbrain, but I want to touch on Kofi Brock. Because, same reasoning. I'm not mad about Brock. I'm not mad about Cain Velasquez, per se. I'm mad that it's scripted, and in 4 seconds, you said Kofi Kingston doesn't matter. The end.
It's also worth talking about this discussion of the idea that you can't have it both ways. You can't say this person doesn't need the belt and we can do a marquee match without them being champion, and then do something like book Brock Lesnar where he needs the belt every time you want to have a kind of marquee match. Exactly. If it's an oxymoron. If Brock Lesnar is a big enough draw that he does not need the championship, then he does not need the championship. If he does need the championship to be able to be that big of a draw, then he is not that big of a draw. That's how it works.
No, and the title needs Brock.
And if you have somebody like a Bray Wyatt, where if somebody would have been like, yeah, well, Bray Wyatt doesn't need the belt. If he has the belt, then what do we do with him? Here's a thought. Don't book him in a Universal Championship match then.
But I want to go a step further here. They literally addressed this specifically on the kickoff show. They literally addressed, Booker T said, I see people complaining that Bray Wyatt doesn't need the belt, but it's that he wants that power of the belt. Booker T was smart enough to see the complaints and put a storyline spin.
Mm-hmm.
Because, that's good. And they still fucked it up, Tony, because guess what they did then? You have people running with a stretcher for a goddamn monster. It's like medics checking on Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. And then they go, "Oh, I know how we'll send them home happy." They're booing.
Hold on.
They're chanting AEW.
Not
They're chanting
yet.
bullshit.
They're not chanting that yet. They're chanting bullshit. They didn't get to AEW yet. But then Seth Rollins says, "You made me do this," and he stands over the Fiend, only for then the Fiend pops up. And as soon as he popped up, initially they popped.
Well, then they start chanting, "Restart the match."
Restart the match.
Of course they
fine.
don't. They don't restart the match. They end up just having a typical beatdown segment, the ones that we saw on SmackDown, and we saw on Raw, and then we saw on Raw, and then we saw on Raw, and,
But this time, he's bleeding from the mouth, and it was a great visual. You know how it would have even been a cooler visual? If you would have just done that same exact thing, but in the match. With the blood coming out of the mouth. I thought that was really cool. But it didn't matter because you already pissed off the fans, and they already knew. All right, you booked yourself into a corner, and instead of confronting what you did and going the way out of it, you fucking backdoored it because why not? And I want to go a step further here. Hell in a Cell is ruined because if you're a new fan and you've only been watching for the last year or two, you now think Hell in a Cell is just a match. And DQs can occur, and you can go too far. And the perception is ruined. This is not like when I was 5 years old, and I saw Mankind get chucked off the top of the cell, and he kept going. Because he's a superstar, and he's a superhero. It's not like that. And this was the one case where it needed to be like that.
And you know what? This is how, I would love to just, if I could have this happen at any point, I will try to do it. Of course, I have no means to do it, but just putting it out there for everybody. I would love to do, and let me backtrack. I'm fucking scatterbrained here. I don't like doing interviews. I have never once thought that would be a career that I would want. I am not the type of person who would want to have that type of a job. I don't think I would be necessarily good at it. I don't like the idea of the whole dynamic of the interview process. I don't want to just be like, here's a bunch of questions and tell me whatever, and I'm going to stand there and hold a microphone. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. It's not my thing. Certain people are better at it, whatever the case may be. So what I would love to do, though, is I would love to have these sit-down interviews and do podcasts with people on the creative side and ask them questions about certain things and ask them things like, for instance, the new Terminator movie coming up, which looks like it's utter garbage. As a fan, that is Terminator 2 is my favorite movie of all time. I would love to sit down with Tim Miller and with James Cameron and go, seriously, guys, haven't you learned anything from the past 4 movies that people have done where, it's just all these problems that keep happening? Really, you're not going to pick up the problem with that? And why did you think that would be a good idea? With WWE, I would love to sit them down and go, so, when you were thinking about booking this Bray Wyatt thing for Hell in a Cell, you knew that you didn't want Bray Wyatt to win the title, right? And then they'd go, yeah, well, we figured he wouldn't. Then go, okay, well, and you knew that you didn't want Bray Wyatt to lose, right? Oh, yeah, we can't have him lose and whatever. Okay, so then why did you book the match? Well, people would love to see that. Okay, well, you know what people would love to see?
A finish.
A finish to the match? Oh, we can't do that then because we'd have to do this. Okay, well, here's a thought. Maybe, just maybe, you can play around with this character that has these multiple personalities and stuff, and you can do something where you play in with the multiple personalities. Now, this is a suggestion. There's 2 suggestions. One of them, I know a lot of people are going to go, I wouldn't like to see that. But a lot of people might. I've been pitching this idea of sweater Bray Wyatt wrestling. Just putting it out there, yeah. If you would have had the sweater version of Bray Wyatt come out in Hell in a Cell, people wouldn't have liked it. And I'm not suggesting that. But, just saying, who's to say there wouldn't be another new one? And you debuted some other side of him, or he switches the persona mid-match. Maybe Seth Rollins hits him over the head with a freaking sledgehammer or something and knocks him into the happy Bray Wyatt. And the happy Bray Wyatt can take the pinfall because he's not the Fiend right now. Or, if you don't even want to have something like that happen, you don't want to have a pinfall and whatever like that, Bray Wyatt is a character that has multiple times now popped up out of nowhere like The Undertaker with the lights going off and doing all this kind of weird shit. Have him run away.
No, because you just applied logic, sir, and we don't do that.
No, instead we're going to have an entire match of Seth hits him with a chair, and then he hits him with a chair, and he hits him with another chair, and now he hit him with a kendo stick or something.
Again,
now he hit him with that and whatever, and where people are booing, and they're chanting that it's boring, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, just cut to the part where something happens. You got to know that that's going to be tiresome, and it's not going to be all that fun. And then your idea of where you end it is a DQ on that? God damn it, come on. This is the type of thing that, like, what was the Royal Rumble, the 2008 Royal Rumble, where Finlay jumps the gun and hits somebody with a shillelagh and they disqualify him from the Royal Rumble?
Yep.
Like, that type of writing skill to me is, you're missing a brain cell, where why didn't you just have Finlay get thrown out?
I want Chris Pritchard to do a podcast on that very moment. Like,
yeah, what is their philosophy behind these kind of things? Because this makes no sense. You have a no DQ match. It should not end in a disqualification. You can end it in a pinfall, or in a submission, or in the referee stopping the match through, like, you know, kind of the submission side of things, where it's like, okay, well, this guy's unresponsive, and we're going to do that. But it's not a disqualification.
And that's what people are saying. People are like, well, you know, who's to say it wasn't a referee stoppage?
It's just stupid, and that you know, you end your pay-per-view with, then I don't know, then he comes back up and he attacks him, and we do that, and we end the show with Bray Wyatt standing tall, because that'll not upset the Bray Wyatt fans. No, you know what it did? It got people chanting AEW. So at the end of your week, you got people chanting AEW for multiple shows.
Let's really dive into this, man. For no fucking reason. For no reason. For no good reason. You could be mad at Kofi, but I get that. Listen, we knew from the minute Brock Lesnar won Money in the Bank that Brock Lesnar, by hook or by crook, was going to win the WWE Championship on Fox. We knew that. That's understandable. This is not...
Oh, very quick aside for anybody that's interested in this too. A lot of people are saying that's because of, like, some kind of racist thing. Anybody would have done the exact same thing. They didn't do that to Kofi because he happens to not be a white member of the roster. They did it because they don't care about anybody but Brock Lesnar.
They would have done it to Daniel Bryan. I want to really get in there. They would have done it to Daniel Bryan. They would have done it to Seth Rollins. They might have even done it to Roman Reigns at this point.
So that's, like, in their philosophy, their idea was, fuck it, we want Brock to look strong. That way he'll look strong. It doesn't matter what happens to Kofi, because that doesn't matter as much to me. It's weighing the options. It's the type of thing where it's like, yeah, I'm going to break my finger because I need to get out of my handcuffs. Okay. You know, that's a weird... Why did I fucking go with that one? As if that's ever happened to me. Really? Yeah, that's happened to me 6 times or something. Sure.
Okay.
Like, you know, you sacrifice something in order to do something because you weigh the options and you say, well, that means the positives out of this thing means far more than the negatives out of the other one.
I love Tony, and I'm gonna help him out here by saying the old adage, you cut your nose to spite your face. And that is what WWE did with
the
Kofi
thing.
But it's at least understandable. Here, they just said, uh-oh, we have to deliver this match. We don't want to. So let's find a way out of it.
It's almost like the only rational explanation would be if a completely different writing team came on after they had announced the match, where they would have been like, ah, crap, what do we do with this? kind of the way that like the Rise of Skywalker is potentially happening, where Rian Johnston completely changed a whole bunch of things, and J.J. Abrams is now like, I got to figure this out. Which I don't think that movie's going to work out all that well and all that, and that's another discussion for fanboys. But at least if that were the case, which we know is not true, then you could be like, crap, they put us in a bad situation now. How do we get out of it? And it still would have been a mistake, but at least I could understand that at that point. If you're trying to clean up somebody else's mess, sure. If you created the mess and you had full control over the mess, what the hell, guys? Come on. Like, legitimately, if I could sit down with the writing team that is in WWE right now and ask them and say, okay, we went through Monday Night Raw. Here are the issues that I could see being the case. And here are the issues that other people have complained about that I might not necessarily even agree on. And here's the things with NXT. And here's the things with NXT UK. And here's the things with SmackDown. And here's the things with 205 Live. And here's the things with Hell in a Cell. And here's what you've promoted for next week. Legitimately, do you feel like you did a good job? I'd love to hear their rational explanation for that. I'd love to hear them say, yeah, we think it is the right idea for us to do Lacey Evans versus Natalya announced 20 minutes before the pay-per-view starts. And we think that you're going to want to tune in again on Monday Night Raw for our last woman standing match. I'd love to hear the rational explanation behind, well, we didn't really need to set up anything with this Viking Raiders and OC thing. They're just in a feud. Feuds today are, the match happens a lot. You're a writer. You're supposed to write a storyline. If the next Batman movie is, okay, what do we know about Batman? He's a superhero. He fights crime. Okay, so in scene 1, he fights somebody. And in scene 2, he fights somebody. And in scene 3, he fights somebody. And in scene 4, he fights somebody.
But what about if in scene 5, he fights somebody?
Yeah, he fights the same person again, because then it goes, oh, now it's a rematch. Now it means something and whatever. And then it'd be like, yeah, this isn't a movie. This is a fucking Tekken game.
This is a loop. And this is a sequence loop.
Yeah, and it's like, so I would love to hear these rational explanations, and we're never going to hear them.
No, never say never.
At the end of premiere week, after the most important Raw of the year and all this, and the most important SmackDown of the year, and the most important NXT of the year, and this Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which used to be this amazing gimmick and all that, we are at a time frame where I'm thinking, why would you tune into Monday Night Raw?
Because Lashley's fucking Lana.
No, they're not going to fuck on stage. It's not going to be that.
You don't know?
I will put this out there. If Lashley fucks Lana on Monday Night Raw, and you got, I don't know what the cameramen are doing with Kevin Dunn's point of view and what angles they're doing, but you see it the way that you'd see it on Pornhub or something like that, I will personally donate $100 to a charity that you guys can decide on.
All right. I don't know how to top that.
Because it's not happening. They're going to make out, or they're going to have some backstage segment where Rusev talks to Lana and he's like, what happened to us? And she'll be like, hey, fuck you, Rusev. I wanted to fuck Dolph Ziggler back in the day and I didn't get a chance to do that. So now I'm fucking Bobby Lashley or whatever. That'll be their fucking draft showcase.
Why is that the takeaway? What the fuck? What are we talking about? Like...
You know what one of the takeaways is from Hell in a Cell of as far as like what did they lead to?
What?
Hey, Ali should be on Team Hogan. That's one of my big takeaways.
Yeah, you ever think that? Never mind. Yeah, maybe.
It's just that. It's so frustrating because I can't even say that Hell in a Cell is the worst pay-per-view of the year because we had Smackville.
This doesn't count.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
We had the Shield's final chapter was this year, right? Yeah.
That was like... They spent a lot of good money on saying goodbye to a guy who showed up at the competition in 2 weeks.
And there's like... There's so many things. There's just so many things. Fucking, as far as like, just talking about this, just to ramble again about something else, about how there's so many things. if you're the type that's like, oh well, Hell in a Cell happened and that's in the past and whatever, because I know WWE loves to do that. They love to do the whole like, well, that just happened and you should be looking forward to the future. Perpetually always looking forward to the future. The next thing is the best thing. And if the next thing doesn't deliver, well, that's because that's the next thing's the best thing. That's their philosophy. They're very much in that kind of, they're used car salesmen, essentially. The next car that you have is going to be the great one. And then as soon as you get to where you're trading that back in, yeah, that was a piece of shit. You shouldn't have bought that one. But the next one you buy from me, that's going to be the best one. And we don't even have like a turnaround for this, because on Halloween, we got Crown Jewel. And then what happens after Crown Jewel? We've got, well, they don't have responsibility for Full Gear, but we've got TakeOver War Games and Survivor Series and Starrcade. So we've got 4 WWE events before December 1st is over with. So there's plenty of stuff coming your way, good or bad. Hopefully good. I really need it to be good. I mean, this week, the fact that it's been so stressful and it's just not ending. I mean, let's put it in the context here. It's 12:40 in the morning. I have to edit the audio for this. I have to edit the video and upload this, write another article to reviewing the podcast, the pay-per-view, switch my predictions for the next couple of pay-per-views up on the website, and write another article for Bleacher Report, and watch Chronicle. And
Chronicle
change
seems like something you can wait for.
Well, I got to change the hot tags and stuff too, unless we just go, you know what, fuck it, no hot tags tomorrow or something like that. But I don't know. It's like,
well, the problem with the hot tags is they should be somewhat topical, and in order to do that, you need to do it as fast as possible.
Yep. So if
hot tags, if you want the hot tags to be more topical, you can donate to that Patreon, and we can do that more than once a week.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. You know, that's always something to keep in mind, everybody. And I really thank everybody for listening to this podcast and all the other podcasts and reading the articles and checking things out and showing your support, whether it's on the monetary side of things or not. Even if you just share something or you just like the video or you leave a comment, all that stuff is greatly, greatly appreciated. So definitely leave a comment. Tell me what you think about Hell in a Cell. Am I being too burnt out and irrational here? Did you really enjoy this pay-per-view? Am I looking at this as not, the bright side of things? Or do you want to complain about it like we did and those kind of things? And if you want to just talk about the positives, how great was that freaking Becky Lynch match? And that tornado tag. Awesome spots.
I'm going to watch it again.
So those are my plugs. That's all the things I got to say, at least for now. Anything you want to toss out?
Fightful.com is a great team. They're great guys. I'm sounding like Trump, I'm sorry. It really is a wonderful team. Sean Ross Sapp works so hard, and they have a Patreon, Fightful Select, and you subscribe to that Patreon and you get breaking news that all the other news sites are going to rip off. But you know what? Fightful Select has it first, and Sean Ross Sapp does his due diligence and his research, and I cannot stress enough how fantastic I think his output is. And he's in the process of editing an epic rant of his own on Hell in a Cell tonight because it wasn't a good show. I want to toss out 2001 Wrestling Odyssey. Callum Liggins is far less scatterbrained and far more articulate than I could ever hope to be. And traveling back to 2001 and doing that journey on Smark Out Moment has been fun, and I want to do it again. And if you want to help us do it again, you can donate to the Patreon. That's the last time I'll say that. WrestleZone.com. I'll be doing the NXT live coverage on Wednesdays, but I'll also be working your wrestling news on Wednesdays. I'll be doing a lot in the coming weeks and months. But you know what? I thank you all for taking this journey. It's a blast, even when I hate it. And yeah.
All right, everybody, that's going to do us in for the pay-per-view-point for WWE Hell in a Cell 2019. Again, thank you for listening to this. We will see you when we see you, which next week our plan is going to be those hot tags that I had mentioned and something that, my God, I hope we get a chance to do this because it'll be fun. It'll be a mock draft. So stay tuned for that, everybody. We will see you then. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.